Hello and welcome back, everybody. It's Draskyl here with a much delayed video. We'll say that. We took a little bit of a hiatus playing some other games, but now we're back to Dota, doing some more educational content today. What I want to talk about is a very broad subject, but I looked at this game already. I already know the result. I just want to give an idea of how to think about your team. What does it do? What does it not do? What are the things that you can apply to every situation to give yourself the best chance to succeed? Really quick, I'm just going to remove the overlay because I forgot to. There we go. Now, we're going to be watching from the perspective of Radiant. And Radiant are going to lose this game. And the reason I'm saying that Radiant are going to lose the game is because we're looking at this from a what can we do better standpoint. And a lot of the time when you're outside of the game, it's much easier to be objective about the things that happened because you're no longer emotionally invested in the outcome of the game. It's just like learning 101 for competitive environments, right? So, if we're looking at our draft, we have Puck, we have Ursa, we have Clock, we have Viper, we have AA. All of these heroes are very good at killing other heroes. Just a super simple concept. You have Ice Blast, we have Viper Strike, lots of magic resist shred from the Q on Viper as well, Nether Toxin, Hook Shot, Battery Assault, Ursa does tons of damage if he can get on top of you, and Puck has a lot of CC, Silence, Coil, High Burst, right? So when we look at this lineup, we could just very easily say, we want to fight. Just super straightforward, nothing overly complex. We can fight, and we also fight with relatively low cooldowns. So this is something really important you can keep in mind whenever you're playing. Dream Coil is 80 seconds. It's on the shorter side. Hook Shot, 60 seconds, scales down to 30 at level 18. Viper Strike is a 50 second down to 30 second. With Ags, it's even shorter. And then Ice Blast is 40 seconds. So we say we can fight, and we would also say that our heroes are relatively low cooldown. That means that your emphasis in gameplay should be on utilizing these spells as often as you can. If you are not utilizing them, there has to be a good reason. Either someone is either dead, you're waiting for a BKB timing on a core hero, or you're waiting for like a Blink Dagger on Puck. There needs to be a specific reason that you are not actively making something happen on the map if you're going to be sitting here and not using your skills. So I don't want to look at one person's individual perspective this game. I kind of want to look at the general plan and what kind of happens in the game. Now, since we're kind of covering a lot of different subjects here, there's going to be a lot of different types of information, but we're going to try to keep it as simple as possible. So for reference, this is a league game. I believe it is a league where no one is over 6,500 MMR. So that means it's probably Divine or lower-ish, or low Immortal or below that. Still can be pretty high MMR regardless, because I think the median's somewhere around like 2.8, 2.9k. I will say draft-wise that I would put Radiant at a disadvantage. Just, obviously they do lose this game, but the reason they're at a draft disadvantage is because the enemy's last pick is really strong. We're not going to go too much into that. We just want to focus mainly on ideas that we can apply to perhaps have better chances of winning in the future. So, for the sake of the video, we're going to play it pretty fast.
A spectacular done!
We're not going to worry too much about individual deaths. We just want to see like the overarching game and how it kind of evolves, especially once the lanes break down. Because I think there's something in Dota where a lot of people, even if they can't play the lanes that well, past, let's say, 8 to 10 minutes, a lot of direction is lost. So even if you have some semblance of a clue of what you want to try to do in the game, when you're in it and you're playing it, oftentimes what'll happen is that you'll either forget or something else will pop up and you'll be like, oh, I have to do this, we have to smoke here, we have to go place this ward, we have to defend this tower. And you kind of forget your game plan. Very, very common. Lots of people do this. I do this. So it's really important, whenever you're looking at a loss especially, to try to be objective and say, okay, would my plan have succeeded here if I had just focused on it, right? Obviously, lots of kills going on, trading. Mid lane, Puck kills the Visage first, that's fine. He gets the bonus EXP. And you can tell that the game, 5 minutes in, it's pretty close. But the thing we're really going to be keeping an eye on here is once the lanes start to break down, what actually happens in the game that creates what we'll refer to as an unwinnable state. So a nice little solo kill there on the Visage. Now here's something a little bit, I suppose, specific in a general video. This matchup for Puck becomes unplayable as soon as Visage hits 6. if you're a Puck player and you've played this matchup, this guy right here becomes impossible to deal with as Puck once he has familiars. And that's because you are a burst hero, right? Puck wants to go in, he bursts, he has high damage nukes. All of these spells get mitigated by Gravekeeper's Cloak, and the more points in a cloak you have, the more mitigation you get. Now, granted, he only has 1 point right now, but sooner or later he'll have more. And then when you try to burst him, he'll take very little damage. The birds do full damage to you. You don't have built-in stout because you're not melee. And it's really frustrating. So the reason I'm bringing this up is because your perspective as the Puck has to be, I cannot be here alone against this guy because it's not a good use of my time. I can't kill him. He'll pressure me out of the lane. And even if he takes my tower, my time spent here is not useful. If somebody else comes mid, like if the Clockwork was 6, if the AA was 6, or the Viper, and they want to come in, and they use spells on this guy, then sure, he could die, right? But I would say in a lot of cases, if your team is very good at killing, fighting around mid is pretty dangerous just in general. Why is it dangerous to fight around the mid T1? It is the shortest distance from each side lane to walk to. You can TP in a ton of different areas. So if we go to free camera really quick, TP range is 800 or 900. So to give you an idea where the cursor is, you can TP in like these trees down here. You can TP behind these trees up here. You can even TP like, I think you can actually TP behind this little area as well. So what happens when you go on this guy? They have a Lion, they have a Grim. So we play it out hypothetically. We jump this guy, we coil him, we throw some spells on him. Those supports are going to TP, and both of those supports have CC effects, and Grim even has a way of letting the Visage potentially just get out, right, with Inkswell. So if we were to say, what would our lineup rather do against this hero, you know, this Visage? We could say something like, what's Visage weak at? He's weak at moving around the map, because whenever you TP on Visage, you have to resummon your birds, or you have to send your birds there in advance and then TP. That's one of the real big issues with that hero in general, is getting around the map is tough. So if we want to avoid this guy, and our Puck can't be here because he doesn't have a good matchup against this hero in particular, but what we want to do is probably either just go top, wait for the Clockwork, wait for the AA to get their ults, because it's obviously important for them to have them for kill potential, and we would play everywhere else but here. Now, this is obviously going to be hard to recognize in games for people who are maybe a little bit newer, but if you just ask yourself the basic question, if you have even the simplest understanding of what a hero does, you can usually come to a decent conclusion. Like, Visage is not mobile at all. So how do we deal with him? We avoid him, right? So we're going to continue playing this. Go back to player perspective here. And you'll notice the Puck kind of just sits mid, and he's pushing out the wave. But every time the Visage comes back into lane, the Puck is forced away. So the Puck is forced away, he throws out a coil, he tries to go for this kill, and as we talked about, this Visage, he gets coiled, he eats every spell, he doesn't die. And now, because we're kind of just sitting around mid, and we could very easily say this is a pretty bad misplay by the Puck, because he's no health, he just uses Orb offensively, he should never walk up this hill. And then he ends up dying, right? So it's an unfortunate death. But aside from the death itself, the main issue is that after he dies, he comes back. So here's what we could do. We have a ranged hero on our team. We have Viper. Viper is pretty good at sitting mid. He can put Nether Toxin on the wave. It kills the wave with one cast, even at level 1. Even Ursa could theoretically sit mid because he has built-in Stout Shield. He has high armor. He'd be sitting under his tier 1. Diving him is just as bad as diving the Visage, because our team also has really good TP response. So if we were to try to trade even in the mid lane, what we could say is, hey, let's put Ursa mid, or let's put Viper mid. And then that way, we have two heroes who are content to just look at each other and farm, while we go try to find a higher priority target. So this is something we haven't touched on a whole lot as it pertains to what our goals are in the game for Radiant, but Gyro is the guy who is going to carry the game, just simply put. Obviously, Axe can scale. He does the Manta Shard build. It can be pretty scary. But against Ursa, it's not super strong, and there's also a Viper with Nether Toxin, so he's going to have his spin disabled in a lot of situations. There's also Ice Blast and Clockwork, and all these heroes on Radiant are quite strong against Axe. So if we were to dissect the lineups and say, what's the hero that's going to give us the most problems, it's going to be Gyro. And with gyro free farming, obviously, that could also be a big problem. He's the highest CS in the game right now. He just gets a kill on the clockwork. So we're going to swap over to network. We're just going to keep an eye on this guy right here. And I want to go back to puck because wherever this guy is, normally there's going to be kills happening. So there's another fight that occurs here in the mid lane. We get a kill on Visage.
That was most invisibility.
And we're kind of just getting rune control, doing some dewarding. You know, you look at this and you go, okay, let's rewind. Let's take stock in what just happened here. So we'll go back to normal speed. The Visage is dead. We get a rune.
That was most
Actually, let's put it a little bit faster.
invisibility.
2 times is probably fine. We get a rune. We deal some damage here. Coil's down, obviously, because we use it to kill. Ob's ward dies. And we're kind of just going, like, super deep, right? We're kind of just going in for the sake of going in. We don't even have spells to actually kill. I think it's important when you're playing elusive heroes that you always respect heroes like Lion and Shaman because they do have the instant CC. Other things like Sand King as well. There's tons of individual mistakes that are obviously happening within the game, but I want to try to just say this as generally as possible for the way the game wants to go. Being here right now with the cart and stuff is fine because the Visage was dead if we were just going to do a regular siege. So what I mean is we have this cart, right? This cart does lots of damage to the tier 1. Instead of diving this guy, if we just kill the wave, right? We kill this cart. We get some nice damage on this T1. The Clockwork's standing behind us. He's still not 6. So he can't save us if we go in. Ideally, if he was 6, he might be able to like hookshot the axe, stop him from casting Culling Blade or whatever, and that would be fine. But there is a distinct lack of like goal in mind with this. It's just, I want to kill this guy, right? We could just simply say, I want to kill him. That's it. That's the only thought process that went in here. And it ends up backfiring because there was an axe at the small camp, right? Okay, cool. So, this guy is going to die. Kind of also baited our Clockwork into a bad situation, which kind of stinks, but, you know, stuff happens. So, this happens a lot in, I would say, basically every MMR. Heck, even in Immortal games, right? This kind of stuff happens a lot. And I know I'm pausing pretty frequently, but I think it's important to talk about all these points. When you get a core kill, right? And it's early in the game. Like, it's roughly, it was like 10 minutes when they killed that Visage. People respawn quickly. The other thing is that when you're walking into their towers and the Visage is just chilling there and he's, you know, he's with his boys, he's gonna have TP when he respawns. So let's think about the logic of what happened. We waste, well, we shouldn't say waste. We use all our spells, we kill the Visage. That's actually good. So it wasn't wasteful at all. But now our spells are down and we're trying to go for another kill when even after the puck is dead, long after the Visage, he still doesn't have coil. Our Clockwork is not 6. Our AA is not 6. You could very easily just say the best situation that could have arisen from that was just killing the Visage and just backing up. You just kill the Visage and you just say, okay, cool, we killed the Visage, let's just chill. I think a lot of players, they are committed to the idea that they have to just do so much all the time. Whereas these little pokes, if you're successful at them and you get a kill and you just back off and you get another kill and you back off, over time, it's going to chip away at their net worth, and they're going to have a lot less time on the map. Waves are going to push in. You're going to start getting damage on towers and stuff. And the pace of the game will change. You don't need to always get an objective immediately. Obviously, that's the end goal, is to get stuff like towers. But this is a prime example of a situation where it has been forced way too hard. When we could have gotten something really good, which is a core kill, and then just been like, all right, cool. We'll just wait for spells. We'll wait for level 6s. And then we'll continue to do our thing. So now we trade, and the enemy team, they kill our cart, and now they have this cart on our tier 1. So we're going to be forced to use Glyph. Puck's going to have to TP back in. Now I just want to mention really quickly, this situation is the exact situation that we just saw from Radiant. It's the exact same. They got 2 kills, they push forward, they didn't respect TPs, and they died. So we could simply say these mistakes happen constantly. Like, this is a team thing too, because this is obviously a smaller tournament match, so all these players are, you know, communicating together to trying to play as a team, so there's a bit more cohesion that you would see in this game than a normal pub. But the idea is the same, right? They got kills. They could have been happy with the kills and just played it safe and got further ahead. However, they try to push it, and then they get counter-killed. Now this whole time, we're keeping an eye on this gyrocopter and his network. If you've noticed, this guy has not been coming to any fights. So the enemy team is essentially playing down their safe lane hero, and as soon as Radiant killed the safe lane tier 1, they never returned to that lane at all. So they have not pressured top a single time since that tower has fallen, and it fell 4 or 5 minutes ago. So at this point, you can already tell that something is not going well, right? They're putting a lot of heavy emphasis on like this 5-man stuff and walking around the map with everybody and, you know, let's do this, let's do that. What happens when you group up everyone together in a game constantly? Like, what is the simple thing that we could say, okay, this is going to be a byproduct of us just clumping all the time? We're going to get way less out of the map. Like, way less. So we're not going to get as much EXP, we're not going to get as much gold. You know, they're... Like, obviously right now the gyro is next to a fair amount of heroes. But for the most part, he's been doing his own thing, and he's at 7k net worth minute 13. So because we're doing all these moves, and we're putting all this, like, emphasis on, you know, tower into tower into tower, it seems like it's efficient when you're doing it within the game, but a lot of the time, like, this tower is really not worth that much. Like, what does this tower do for you in terms of the game? It opens up this area a little bit, but mid T1's already dead, right? This T1's already dead. The normal state of Dota for the high-level, like, players is that once this tower is dead, this part of the map becomes the space that the safe laner on Radiant would want to occupy. So this T1 falls. The Ursa would spend a lot of time up here. Maybe, you know, the Puck or the Clockwork or whoever would be near him. And then they could make plays happen if they try to go on the Ursa. Or once the Clockwork and the A are 6, they play together, hookshot into Ice Blast, and they just kill whoever they find, right? So the reason why it's not necessarily great for these heroes to be grouped up like this all the time is that they aren't really getting that much more out of the map than their opponent. And even though they have a 2-tower lead, Dire actually has a gold lead because they're being more efficient. You know, this gyro went for the full greed, right? Stats, max flat cannon, straight into Ags. He's going for the I'm carrying the game build, and I'm going to scale hard. Whereas Radiant are fighting, and fighting is not inherently wrong with their lineup, but the way that we're fighting is kind of scuffed. So we're going to go ahead and hit play again here. One person TP's top, one person TP's mid. That's a little unfortunate. That was probably just a miscommunication by the Puck and the Viper, because the Viper TP'd to the top wave of his travels. And if there had been like any follow-up whatsoever, that gyro probably would have died, which would have been a nice skill. So now, if we were to look at the last like 60 seconds, we trade an off lane for our mid tier 1, which is the most important tower on the map for reference, if some people are newer watching this video and you don't know. The mid tier 1 is the most important tower, period. By far. It's not close. So we lose our mid tier 1, we lose our Puck, we send 4 or 5 heroes bottom to kill an offlane tower. Now, looking at this in hindsight, it's very easy to say, yeah, this was super not worth. Like, this whole movement, like sending everybody bottom, the gyro just hits creeps, he goes in, walks mid, kills our tier 1, our Puck dies to him also. That's just not, that doesn't feel good, right? Even when it happens in the game, it doesn't feel good. You're like, ugh. But it's kind of hard for people to put a clear, like, okay, this is why it's going wrong, this is what we need to do within the game. Which is why it's important to do stuff like this and, you know, go over your replays. So now, we've lost... How many times has Puck died? 4 times? So our mid player has died 4 times. As a Puck in a game, it's not like the easiest Puck game, but it's mostly difficult because the amount of pressure that the opposing mid can apply to us, and we can't really do anything back. That's why it's difficult. Yes, Puck can be countered by Lion, and it's annoying to deal with Hex, but this guy doesn't have Blink yet, right? So no Blink on Lion, it's not that big of a deal. So this play right here is the first play that we see into the enemy jungle at 15 minutes, right? This is the first one. So we're going to run to the Axe. Axe has Dagger, this guy has Hookshot, and the Viper is already walked uphill basically into this. So this is one of the... I'm trying to think of how I want to word this. The map up until the point where they smoked into the jungle was completely empty, right? No one was showing anywhere. Nobody's showing bottom, nobody's showing mid, nobody was showing top. The wave is pushed really far. So theoretically, if you were looking at the map as Radiant, there's only 2 spots that are likely that Dire could be. Their jungle, right, by the outpost, or by their triangle, which is the ancient spawn. So when we go in here, high likelihood that we're going to run into heroes. Like, super high. So if we rewind right here, like, look at this map. Right now, look at this map. There is a wave pushed right here. We see one hero. We see Gyro. There's a wave hitting the tier 2, and the Puck is pushing bottom. So when we smoke, the likelihood of walking into enemy is ultra high. They're either right here or they're right here. You know, they could theoretically be going for Puck. And the way the smoke breaks is really unfortunate because the Viper walks into 2 seconds, which is, you know, obviously not the best. That being said, they still get a kill on Axe. And this is attributed to how good our lineup actually is at killing heroes. It's like we mentioned at the start of the video, you hookshot, you AA blast, some Viper spells. That guy's just gonna die. If he doesn't have BKB, he's gonna go splat. So that's good. So what happens after the fact, right? We want to keep our cooldowns on cooldown as often as we can. So as soon as this hook is back up, we just want to go again. We get another Ice Blast, we get a foil, we get a hook, that guy dies. So we trade the mid for the offlane, that's still okay. But the Gyro is still the guy who is hitting all the creeps. Still pulling ahead, still pulling ahead. Right here is the point where you could maybe think, hey, do we want to go Roche? It's kind of tough because the Gyro, like, you don't know where the Gyro is at this point. And they still have, you know, Finger, they still have also a bunch of heroes. And this is another problem that we haven't really spoken too much about in this video about the lineup, but this lineup really wants Roche. When you have a team with an Ursa and all other 4 of your heroes are magic damage dealers, you're going to run into timing issues. Timing just means at one point the enemy team is going to start getting BKBs, or they're going to start getting hoods and pipes and all these other items, and it's going to be way harder for you to apply your damage and actually get kills. So you need Roshan to keep your momentum. And the momentum is like the Ursa being able to run into people, hit them, kill them, you know, force them on the back foot. So the enemy team makes a play into our jungle, they find the Puck. And right now, we are pretty much playing blind. So bottom left, you can see there's really only one ward. When the enemy team makes plays like in this direction, and you have a ward here, you could potentially go for a Roshan sneak. This is more like in the moment stuff where you make the call and you're just like, yeah, we can go, we can maybe do this. You know, you have like Clockwork come down, tank the Roche, Ursa hits it, you kill it. But it's really hard to make plays anywhere when you're spread, and you also don't have any wards, obviously. Like, this is just super Dota 101 stuff. I will also say that there are a lot more individual things happening in this game, too, that we're not really touching a whole lot on. But if you're playing a lineup like this and you are spread, like you're just all over the map, you have Hook, you have Viper Strike, you have Ice Blast, you have Coil, and these heroes aren't playing together. There is not really much of a point in drafting these types of lineups if you don't want to just have your foot on the gas all the time. Especially against a team like Dire's, where their late game is going to be better. Like, Gyro late game is incredibly potent. Like, Axe is going to scale decently. Visage is not super scary, because he's obviously died a lot this game, and we put a lot of focus on keeping him down, so he doesn't really have much. But the other 2 guys are still going to be pretty scary, right? So I would say that the direction of the game even though it's only a 3k lead, has already been kind of lost. Because we have a puck, you know, solo farming our woods. We have the clockwork top. Like, it's just very discombobulated. Everyone's kind of all over the map, and we all have our own ideas of, like, things that we want to do. And really, all we ever need to do is to be together as 2 or 3 heroes and push these ults. That's what our lineup does. It's basically all our lineup can do. Like, Ursa split pushing is not going to be that strong. Viper and puck can kill waves, which is fine. But the longer the game goes, you know, it's obviously going to get more and more difficult. And you can see that, like, this particular game, it's not actually that long. It's only 18 minutes in, and there's already so many things that we can talk about. Not even individually, but just as a team. So the enemy goes in here. They go for the Ursa. They don't get the kill. Didn't even have to ult, which is quite nice. Alright, so Jaro joins the fight, and we kind of get smushed. So it's a 5k lead now, at around 20 minutes. And I don't want this video to be super long. I just wanted to kind of get the basic points across of philosophically how your lineup should be playing. Now, not every lineup is going to be like this, where you have 4, you know, bursty magic heroes, global presence, and then an Ursa. But this lineup is fully capable of playing the game. It's just, we'd call this an execution lineup. That means you have to go, you have to know where to be, you have to have good vision, you have to fight constantly, and you have to find the right heroes. So these types of lineups are very difficult in terms of execution, instead of like Dire's lineup, which is saying our Gyro is going to get enormous. By the way, he's almost 14k net worth at minute 15. That is a lot of farm. That is so much farm. And the other thing to keep in mind is once he gets this BKB, your kill potential on him goes bye-bye. You're no longer killing this guy in a hook shot. He's going to hit BKB. He's going to take basically 0 damage from all your spells. The only person who can hit him at that point is going to be Ursa. And Ursa is sitting on a Diffusal Blade and a Morbid Mask. Right? So at this stage, I think we could say that the game is already kind of out of hand. There are obviously things that you could do at this point, but as soon as this item is completed, the win percentage of this game goes from like maybe 50-50 to like 90-10 in favor of Dire. So I think what we're going to do is probably just call this one here at around 20 minutes. We obviously know that Raiden are going to lose, but I wanted to just get like the primary early mid-game stuff kind of figured out for hopefully people at home who are trying to say, okay, I need to figure out what it is that's going wrong in my games. This kind of stuff that we're seeing here happens all the time. Prioritizing the right heroes that actually have to die, knowing where you need to be on the map. How do your heroes interact with each other? Like in this game, we have a very clean example, the Clock AA. We talked about it a lot, but it's integral to how our lineup actually plays. If you don't utilize these tools on your lineup, and you don't do it like as often as you possibly can within reason, then the result of this game is usually going to be that Dire will win. And Dota is a draft-based game, but it's also an understanding-based game on what your lineup can and cannot do. So I hope that you guys have learned a little bit from this video. This is a very, like, kind of covering all bases, not focusing too much on individual play type thing. But if you liked the video, please feel free to give a like, follow the channel. We're going to be posting a lot more YouTube content here in the future, assuming my editor is around, which I love, by the way. Shout out to RDO5 for all the stuff that he does for the channel. Hope you guys are all doing well. If you want to catch me live on twitch.tv, you can do so. It's just /Draskyl, just as in the YouTube. Hope you guys are doing well. I'll see you tomorrow.